If you are a digital nomad and you are not really based in one specific country, one of the biggest questions you'll eventually face is, where should I actually register my business? Because you have options. You could set up in the UAE, you could go with Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, or just register back in your home country. So why are thousands of digital nomads choosing the US LLC? Why did I personally choose it? When does it actually make sense and when does it not? In this video, I'll break down exactly why the US LLC is often the simplest and most efficient structure for digital nomads, how to run it properly, and also where the pitfalls are. Because make no mistake, if you don't set it up and maintain it correctly, your digital nomad dream can turn into a compliance nightmare. Now, before we go deeper, one important thing. If you are going to set up a US LLC, do it properly. That means choosing the right state, understanding your compliance obligations, and filing correctly with the IRS. There are still people who think I don't pay US tax, so I don't need to file anything. And that's wrong. You may not owe US taxes, but you still have filing obligations. And penalties for incorrect or missing filings can go up to 25,000 USD. If you want a provider that handles setup, state selection, and ongoing compliance properly, you can reach out to us via the link in the description. We set up LLCs every day. Now let's talk about why the US LLC makes so much sense for many digital nomads. First question, what do you actually need as a nomad? Let's say you are spending time in Bali, Thailand, Vietnam, Mexico, maybe Europe occasionally. Of course, you don't want to register your company in every place you visit. You also don't want to register it somewhere that keeps taxing it when you are not living there. What you need is a tax-neutral structure. Not tax-free, tax-neutral. And that's a very important difference. The US LLC, when structured correctly, can be tax-neutral for non-US persons. Why? Because US LLC is treated as a pass-through entity. That means the company itself does not pay federal income tax. Instead, profits flow through to the owners. Now here's the key. If you are not a US tax resident, you don't operate in the US, and you don't have US employees or a US office, then in many cases there is no US federal income tax. You can sell to US customers, that's totally fine, but you cannot run operations from inside the US. That distinction is critical. Now again, this does not mean no tax anywhere. It just means the US itself is not taxing the company at entity level. Where you personally owe taxes depends on your personal residency situation. Second reason the US LLC works well, it's lightweight. You don't have a heavy bureaucratic structure if you are a solo founder running an online business. With an LLC, maintenance is relatively simple. Registered agent, annual state report, IRS filing. That's basically it. Compared to structures in some other countries, it's extremely efficient. Third, and this is underrated, banking and payment processing. If you are selling online, chances are you are charging in USD, your customers are global, many are in Western countries. A US company with US banking and US payment processors often reduces friction. Payments are less likely to get flagged or declined. You avoid unnecessary currency conversion fees. And US financial infrastructure is still one of the strongest globally. Now let's talk about compliance, because this is where people mess up. There are three main things you need to handle properly. First, registered agent. If you don't live in the US, you need a registered agent in the state of formation. They maintain your official address and receive legal correspondence. You renew this annually. Second, annual state report. Every year you file a simple report with the state where your LLC is registered. Usually inexpensive. But if you forget it, your company can fall out of good standing. And third, and most important, IRS filing. Even if you owe zero US tax, you still need to file the correct forms. Single-member LLC is one set of forms. Multi-member, different forms. Deadlines are typically March for multi-member LLCs or April for single-member LLCs. And missing these filings can trigger penalties starting at 10,000 USD and going up to 25,000 USD. And this is why do-it-yourself without understanding the rules is risky. Now, when does a US LLC not make sense? Broadly, two main scenarios. First, if you need formal tax residency somewhere. The US LLC alone does not give you tax residency. If you are exiting a country like Australia, for example, they may require proof that you are tax resident somewhere else. In that case, just having a US LLC is not enough. You might need something like a UAE company where you can get residency, spend 90+ days per year, and establish tax residency properly. So sometimes the best structure is actually UAE residency plus US LLC for payment processing. And that's a very common combination. Second, if you are running a larger operation, if you need share issuance, investors, complex corporate structuring, or large team hiring, then an LLC might not be ideal. In that case, a corporation in the US, a Hong Kong company, or a UAE structure could be more suitable. The LLC is fantastic for solo founders, online coaches, course creators, freelancers, service businesses, and location-independent operators. But once you scale beyond a certain point, you may need something more robust. So the bottom line is, for the typical digital nomad running an online business, the US LLC is often the simplest, most efficient, and most flexible structure available. But it's never one size fits all. If you want to discuss your specific situation in detail, you can book a call with us and we'll map out what actually makes sense for you. And if you are ready to set up a US LLC properly, with correct state selection and ongoing compliance handled, use the link below to work with professionals who specialize in international founders. Leave the video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, see you in the next one. Bye.